If you were able to experience the generational run by XXXTentacion in 2016 to 2018, consider yourself lucky. His extremely rare musical talent created so many hit songs that continue to break records in 2024, which is 6 years after his official passing. Music so big that we still see legends like 50 Cent claim that X would have been the biggest artist in the entire world.
It's sad because he's young, kid. He's just really getting off into his career, really. In a lot of places, he had #1 album, but they wouldn't cover it because of his legal issues. And you see Spotify switch.
Immediately after XXXTentacion's passing, everyone started pointing the finger towards one rapper, being Drake. Even during the X trial, there was lawyers defending the suspects of Michael Boatwright, Dedrick Williams, Trayvon Newsom, and Robert Allen, all claiming that Drake was actually the one responsible for X's passing.
Before X, he said, if anybody, it's Drake. And do you think that for one moment, here today, days after the event, two masked men, right? He came on social media and said, guys, if anybody is Drake, do you think in that time span that they went and they addressed him, they talked to him? No. Do you think sitting here today, years later, any detective has ever asked, Drake or anybody like that? No, they never did that. So you ask yourself, how could that be? And you say, hey, it's so-and-so, you better believe so-and-so is going to get investigated. But in this case, they didn't do it. They didn't do it because it didn't comport with their version and their narrative. And as law enforcement, I think that they have the obligation to do so.
The lawyer stated that Drake is responsible for X's passing due to X putting on his Instagram, if anyone tries to get me, it was at Champagne Poppy, aka Drake. I'm snitching right now. However, finally in 2024, the actual truth behind his passing was revealed. Allow me to explain. On June 18th, 2018, the day that XXXTentacion passed, his day starts by him hopping into his all-black custom BMW i8 and driving over to Riva Motorsports. Riva is a massive retailer for motorcycles, boats, and off-roading vehicles. Once arriving to the store, X finds a motorcycle that he likes. As a manager then proceeds to tell X that they do cash deals as well as big discounts if you bring in all cash. XXXTentacion is then seen leaving the shop, calling his mom to update on buying the vehicle. His mother then tells X to bring his uncle so someone can drive his i8 home while he drives the motorcycle. The uncle plays a major role in his passing, so make sure you remember. XXXTentacion and his uncle then arrive to the Bank of America, where security surveillance catches X walking into the bank and speaking with the teller.
During your encounter with Mr. Envoy during this time, what was his demeanor like?
Fun. He's anything that.
During trial, the bank teller would mention that the Florida rapper wanted $250,000 in cash. She had to reject him at the bank booth as their policies only allow for $50,000 cash withdrawals. She handed over X the 50 grand and he ordered the other 200,000 for him to pick up at a later date. Now, what XXXTentacion didn't realize was walking back to his vehicle, the 4 suspects of Michael Boatwright, Dedrick Williams, Trayvon Newsom, and Robert Allen were all 4 scoping out his BMW i8 inside of the parking lot. Robert Allen, the snitch amongst the 4, were already committed to wanting to commit a crime this day for money. XXXTentacion and his custom BMW practically fell into their hands. They watched X get into his car. They knew exactly who he was right off first glance, so they immediately started following. Robert Allen mentions that while they were following him driving back to Riva, they had 2 things in mind: snatch his diamond chain and find out what was in the Louis Vuitton duffel bag that he brought into the Bank of America. XXXTentacion arrives back to Riva for the final time. Arriving at the retailer, the 4 suspects would then park their van across the street, trying to stay out of the surveillance camera's way. 2 men then hop out of the car so they could watch X from a distance inside of Riva Motorsports, while also purchasing the ski masks and gloves that they used for the crime only 10 feet away from XXXTentacion inside of the store. Many people were not aware aware of them. Here's even surveillance footage of them entering the store with X. One of the craziest part is X actually makes eye contact with one of the suspects as caught on tape. Now XXXTENTACION continues on. Looking at the motorcycles with his uncle, he ends up changing his mind and not purchasing. This means that all of the money is still inside of the Louis Vuitton bag. X and his uncle then proceed to leave Riva. Right behind them was the two suspects sprinting out of Riva, sprinting right past X and his uncle to the van that is parked across the street, as this is when X made the worst mistake ever. XXXTENTACION would sit inside of the parking lot for roughly 5 minutes, giving the suspects enough time to get back to their van. When it was time to leave, X turns his vehicle off. The suspects turn their van on. XXXTENTACION then tries to pull out of the driveway. Meanwhile, the van cuts them right off from the one exit way. With XXXTENTACION blocked and nowhere to go, two men then hop out of the vehicle, one going to XXXTENTACION's window while the other goes to his uncle's side window. The man at X's window has a firearm pointed right at X, demanding him to roll his window down and hand over the money. X would refuse and try defending himself, making the two men very angry. With the two men getting angrier and angrier, X's uncle would then open up his side of the door, sprinting away from XXXTENTACION, leaving him all by himself against two men with masks and firearms. This is then when one of the robbers would go to the passenger side door, seeing as the door is wide open. He then gets to X inside of the vehicle while the other man uses his firearm towards X. XXXTENTACION continued to defend off his chains and cash. This is then when we all knew what happened after that. The two men were able to run off with X's Louis V bag full of cash. Meanwhile, X's uncle is already back inside of Riva Motorsports calling his mom. Now in court, it would be revealed, and I quote, "Prosecutor says Dedrick Williams was driving and cut off the car being driven by X. Michael Boatwright and Trayvon Newsom were the two that put the ski masks on and had firearms. The passenger manages to run away. They approach X and Boatwright does the act towards them. One of the four suspects, named Robert Allen, ended up snitching in the trial for X's passing. Robert would reveal everything that we need to know. We even learned how they split up the $50,000 that was found in the Louis V bag. There's even photos of the four flexing the money. Michael Boatwright, Dedrick Williams, and Trayvon Newsom all got $15,000 each. This means that Robert was the only one given $5,000. Pretty interesting, the man paid the least amount of money turned out to be the one to snitch. There's even a tweet that shares pictures taken after X's passing, same day, shows Michael Boatwright flexing a ton of cash. Defendant turned state testifies that this was XXXTENTACION's money, and the photo was taken hours after the incident, revealing these photos of the suspects flexing a few $1,000s, thinking that they're cool. Shortly after, Robert Allen would share the money situation and what X's last words were. After the incident was done and the suspects hopped back into the van and began driving away, they would share what X was saying in his final moment. As shared by DJ Academics, XXXTENTACION's last words were, "What is this for?" making his passing feel even more upsetting. X didn't even understand what was going on. It all happened within seconds, with surrounding witnesses at the scene taking photos of X, publishing everything to social media. The news spread fast. Rappers would then even start reacting and sharing their favorite moments with him. Juice WRLD, who exchanged conversations with X a few times, had this to share about his experience with the Florida rapper.
We had a couple like deep conversations, talked on the phone a few times. He had nothing but positive stuff to say. For real, for real. We had respect for each other at the end of the day. And that's what was gonna kind of lead into a friendship. He just said, make sure it's to keep all negative people out of your life. And just make sure that you have good energy around you, pretty much.
He'd even then hop onto a radio station interview where he would share this about the creation of his song titled Legends, who honors late rappers X and Lil Peep.
And that Legends record, it speaks because like you dropped it right after, you know, X.
I made it the same night he passed away.
Wow. Talk about that.
Yeah, what was that relationship like?
We weren't the best of friends. We had a couple like deep conversations though. He had nothing but good advice.
We would then even see Ski Mask share their upbringing together as well.
I met X in juvenile jail. Both was in juvenile jail spending time. Then we just was like, yeah, we need an outlet to just stop getting in trouble. All we like to do is hit licks and like do hood friends. Long story short, so it's just like, all right, we need to find something to do. So we was like in there just beating on the tables because all you can really do is sit there and stare at each other. So we sitting there beating on the chairs and stuff, and then we just like figured out each other could rap, and then we just like helped each other.
He would then even go on to share a never-before-heard conversation on how they actually produced their unique, distorted type of music, just like their collaboration song titled Take a Step Back.
X recorded my first song. He ordered the stuff off of eBay. It was like a snowball mic. It was like the cheapest mic you could get. It sit on like 3 prongs or 4 prongs, one of those. And it was like just a basic Audacity and like a laptop. So, but that's how we got distorted music.
This would then even lead into Trippie Redd reacting, who said that they became very close friends as well, and he considered him a brother.
I was going to Miami to do several shows, and I performed in Orlando, and then I performed in Miami with X. Ever since I had met bro, we had just became like super cool friends, and now that's my best friend, I could say.
These two created the hit song titled F Love, one of the biggest songs of all time on Spotify to this day. Trippie Redd would even speak on how he even got onto the song.
I was in Lil Wayne's studio, and I had recorded over this detail beat. It was the Love chorus, and then I had posted an Instagram snippet, or the day after, matter of fact, and X had texted me and he was like, bro, I need that. I sent it to him. And he was like, bro, I'm putting this on my album. I'm like, all right, bet.
Then hopping into Denzel Curry, not only were the two best friends, but they also lived together in South Florida. Denzel ended up discussing the different stages of X.
There was different eras of X. Like black hair era, like when he just had regular hair. When I met him, you know, he was just coming up, just doing his thing, just coming up, just making music. You know what I mean? Had the blonde and black era when he had the half blonde, half black hair. And that's when, you know, when all the crazy stuff started happening with the allegations, with, you know what I'm saying, the trial, the shows. Then it went to the transition where white haired X, where he first got the tree in the middle of his forehead. That was like his evolving state. Then it went to Indigo X. He described it as Indigo X when we talked. The last time we talked, he said the reason why he changed his hair, and he just felt like he understood how it was being a bad person and how easy it was.